More often than not, it's not so much about finding what's the right thing to do, but what stops us from doing it. Because usually the answers are pretty simple. We know exactly what will help us out the situation, but there's always something in the way. There's always something that makes sense to do, even if it's not the right thing to do, even if it's not what's going to give us the solution that we know we need to solve this problem that we keep dealing with. So, this episode is going to help in dissolving what keeps getting in the way, dissolving what keeps the habit going of staying in your head. So sit back and enjoy. What's up? What's up? Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, I'm Mike, and I created this channel to help people get out of their head to come back into their bodies. Now, this is a 5-part series for the overthinking cure, and each part has practical tips to help you quiet your mind from overthinking. The first part was about how to feel your way out of overthinking rather than thinking your way out of it, because that'll just keep you stuck in the loop of overthinking. Part two was about how to redirect your momentum of thought, how to change the direction of your thought. Part three was about how to develop the sensitivity so you can catch it earlier to make it easier to change the direction of your thought. And part four, which is this video, is all about how to hear yourself, because that could be the hardest thing to do. It could be so hard to just hear your own voice, your own thoughts in the midst of all of your thoughts, because it feels like there's three people at least talking over each other in your mind when you're overthinking. There's one that's focused on the problem. That's one that's trying to solve the problem and pointing out all the things that may be adding to the problem. There's you and as the awareness watching this happen. Then there's another thought about how frustrating this is that this is happening in the first place. So it can feel like you're up to speed with what you think about the situation. But just from labeling all those thoughts, you can see how easy it can be to get lost in the thoughts. And that's all overthinking is not really being clear on what was the beginning and what's the end, and even where are you trying to go with all these thoughts. Because as you're finishing one, there's already two that are preloaded for you. So, one way to really quiet the mind is by writing out your thoughts. I'm sure meditation came to mind, but it's going to be very hard to meditate when the mind is already loud. And that's the main thing that keeps people from meditating, is feeling like that the silence is deafening. It is too loud to just sit still in silence. Now, when it comes to writing, the reason why that's easier is because it entertains you in a different way. It not so much distracts you, but it gets you to direct your attention in a very specific way where you have to spell the words correctly of the words that you're using to describe your thoughts, because you want to be able to read what you're writing out back to yourself. So you have to spell it correctly. Then you have to make sure there's just enough space between the letters and then just enough space between the words. And then also that you're writing it in a straight line and that there's space from one line to the next. It seems so obvious because, yeah, that's how writing is. But we don't pay attention to the little ways that it requires just a little bit of focus. And that's all the focus you need to start to quiet the mind even more. Because what that's doing is now funneling your thoughts into what are you able to focus on as you're writing it out, because you could only write out one thought at a time. So it's almost like you're, if those three different forms of thought that we were talking about before were three different people, it's like as you're writing it out, you're asking them to speak one at a time. It's like, okay, you go first. And then you're writing out exactly that train of thought. Then you go to the next one and the next one. But what's different about this approach is how you're going to write. Because writing itself is very powerful, as you can see in quieting the mind. But the way I like to shift from overthinking to a quiet mind is what I like to call dialogue writing. So you're going to write as if you're having a conversation with yourself, like you're having a conversation with the thoughts. And you're just going to write out what the question is. What's the question that you're ruminating on? What's the question that just keeps playing on repeat and you notice you keep trying to answer over and over again? As you write that at the top, then you're just going to take a moment. You can breathe in between and now answer that question. And what's going to happen is the purpose of this is to get you to no longer be stuck on the question. Because in overthinking, since we're getting lost in all these thoughts, we're not really able to let that question go. Because we may answer it, but then we're kind of getting lost in where the response took us. So we don't really get to the core of what the question was getting to. So in writing it out, you get to keep track of where you are in this conversation with yourself. And you no longer have to try to remember what the question is. It's right there in front of you. And as you're answering the question, now all of your focus and attention can go on just the answer. And as you write out that answer, once you feel complete of, okay, I have nothing else to add to this answer, what would be a follow-up question? And the follow-up question is going to help you provide more clarity as to what exactly are you focused on? What exactly are you feeling about this? Because the questions are revealing more and more as to why is this getting so much of your attention? Out of everything that's happening in your life, why is this so important? And the answer may seem obvious. It may seem obvious as to, well, I can't believe that this person did this, or this thing needs to be taken care of and it's really important to me. That may be a part of it, but you'll be surprised as you're having this conversation with yourself what's actually at the root of it, because there's so many things that are important and need to be taken care of, and they don't really stay in your mind as heavily. Even if it's something that needs to be taken care of and you can't do it in this moment, you just acknowledge that you're going to do the best that you can to take care of it in the time frame that you would like to. And then there's other things that you just can't let go of. There's certain things that no matter what you do, even though you're going to do your best, even though you will do what you can to take care of it, there's just something about it that you just can't let go. It's this constant stress. And as you're having this dialogue with yourself, you're actually having dialogue with the stress itself. And as you're approaching it with curiosity, it's going to show you what the core feeling is. Because the top layer, right, the top feeling, which is, it could be stress, it could be pain, it could be hurt, it could be frustration. That's just the surface level of it. It's getting your attention to let you look at what's underneath it. It's just calling for your attention so you can look in its direction. But as you approach it with curiosity, rather than trying to get away from it because it's uncomfortable, since you're asking questions about it, it'll take you down this specific trail. It's almost like a kid grabbing you by the hand and taking you somewhere. And you're asking, hey, where are we going? What are we? And it's like a kid saying, it's a surprise. I'm going to show you. But just in you asking questions about yourself, about the part of you that feels so uncomfortable, you're starting to change your relationship with this emotion, because this emotion used to have to get so loud through the stress, through the anxiety, to get you to even look in its direction. Now you're willingly sitting in the discomfort and being curious about it and trying to find out more about this part of yourself, about this side of you. And there's a layer of safety that comes with that, because you're also showing yourself that you don't have to be perfect to get your attention. You don't always have to do the right thing for you to be with yourself. That even when you feel this way, you're still going to choose you. And that level of safety allows you to open up more and leads you to what the core feeling is tied to. And it can be tied to a past experience, a past memory, a past moment in your life that you haven't been able to feel safe enough to sit with yet or process. It can get you to feel a feeling of having done something bad or wrong, or believe that you have, so that you can, as you're answering the questions, see that that's not true. That you can see through the lie that you did something wrong or bad, because as you're answering the questions, you're seeing what your intentions were, what your intentions are. And the thing is, you've always had the best intentions. You've always done the best that you can with what you had available to you. And we tend to forget that whenever we start to put a lot of pressure on ourselves and beat ourselves up and expect perfection. And it's this constant punishment of should have known better, should have done better, where in being curious about something that felt so uncomfortable, it not only changes your relationship with yourself, but with the situation itself. Because you'll get to see why that thing was getting your attention, why it seemed like it was impossible to take care of something that you've seen so many other people take care of. And that could be either in the world of relationships, it could be in the world of money, it could be in the world of fitness. There's always something that we feel, no matter how hard I try, this thing just can't get solved. And it's frustrating, and at times it could feel defeating. But the reason why it hasn't gone away, why it hasn't changed, is because it's calling for your attention. There's something in there you haven't seen yet. And as you're answering these questions, you'll notice in real time your body will respond very differently. In the beginning, when you first write the question, you may be feeling some tension. You may still be feeling that stress, that worry, that anxiety, maybe that fear, that doubt. And as you continue to have this dialogue with yourself and you start to have these realizations about yourself, there will be this feeling of relief washing over. The sense of peace of, oh wow, I knew that thing was within me, that feeling or that experience of whatever happened, but I didn't know it was tied to this. Or I didn't know that's how I really felt about the situation. And just the fact that you took the time to be with yourself when you needed yourself the most. Because think about it, you're feeling the emotions of how you were feeling. You were feeling that sense of stress, anxiety, fear, doubt, worry, panic. And if you saw somebody that you really cared about feeling that way, chances are you would be there for them. So the fact that you took the time to be with yourself in the process of it really changes how you feel about the whole situation. There's almost an appreciation of it because you had this appreciation for yourself. And in changing your relationship with yourself and to the situation, now it makes sense to do something else. The tricky thing, it's the paradox of it. The thing that we're trying to get rid of, the thing that we're trying to change, the reason why it hasn't changed is because it makes sense to keep doing it the same way. And the paradox is once you see why it made sense, it stops making sense. And if you get that, you'll get it. Once you see why it made sense to do it that way, you'll realize, oh, it doesn't even make sense to do it anymore. And you'll realize, oh, it just made sense to keep doing it that old way because there was some uncomfortable feeling that we didn't want to be with. So we would shift into autopilot and we would just let the older version of us just take over and we wouldn't really be there. And we'll just be in our head whenever that feeling will come up and just do it however we did it before just to get it over and done with. And just through having this dialogue with yourself through dialogue writing, it's like, oh, wow, I feel so much more clear. I can actually hear myself now. There's this sense of clarity. I feel clear within myself in this situation where I would usually lose myself. And that in itself is such a liberating and freeing feeling. Now, if you feel disconnected, stuck, lost, there's a booking link in the description for a one-on-one call with me where we could personalize all of this information and more to get to the core of what it is you're navigating, what you're dealing with, what you've been stuck on, and to get you to realize you don't have to do it by yourself. If you're able to figure this out on your own, awesome. But the booking link is to remind you that I'm also available and you have the option to get some help along this way to help you reconnect with yourself. Now, for the comment section, I would like you to describe what did it feel like to have this dialogue with yourself? What did it feel like to get to know yourself on this deeper level? What did you get from it? I'm always interested to hear people's experiences in getting to know themselves in a deeper way. It's always beautiful. It's always, it's pretty dope. I like it. I like what I do. So be sure to like, share, subscribe. I'm wishing you an amazing day. If it's nighttime by you, I'm wishing you an amazing night. And I will catch you later.